The streets of downtown Chicago were bustling with the afternoon rush. Cars honked, people hurried past one another, and the winter chill hung in the air. Among the crowd, a man named Richard Blake walked with his usual calm demeanor. Richard was no ordinary man. He was one of the city's wealthiest entrepreneurs, known for his billion-dollar tech empire and his notoriously private life. He was dressed in a tailored navy coat, leather gloves, and a scarf that made him look even more distinguished. To most passers-by, he was just another successful businessman. But inside, Richard carried a heavy burden. His wife had died 5 years ago, leaving him with an emptiness he could never fill. Even though he had all the money in the world, he often walked the streets alone, longing for the warmth of a family he once dreamed of having. As he waited at a crosswalk, checking his phone for urgent messages, he felt something small crash into him. At first, he thought it was just someone bumping into him in the rush of the crowd. But then he looked down. There she was, a little girl, no older than 6 or 7, with tangled brown hair and a worn-out pink jacket. Her cheeks were red from the cold, and tears streamed down her face. She clutched a torn teddy bear in one hand, and before Richard could even react, she wrapped her tiny arms around his leg and cried out, "Daddy!" Richard froze. "Daddy, I found you," she sobbed, burying her face in his coat. People walking by stopped and stared, murmuring and glancing at the scene. Some looked at Richard suspiciously, as if wondering if the child was really his. Richard knelt down, unsure of what to do. "Sweetheart, I think you're mistaken," he said gently, trying to meet her teary eyes, but the girl shook her head violently. "No, you're my daddy. Mommy said you'd come back." Richard's chest tightened. Her words pierced through him like a blade. He could see the desperation in her eyes, the kind of pain only a child abandoned by hope could feel. His heart, usually hardened by business deals and corporate wars, began to soften. "What's your name?" he asked softly. "Leela," she whispered, clutching his hand tightly. "Please don't leave me again, Daddy. Mommy's gone, and I'm scared." Richard felt his throat tighten. He didn't know who this little girl was, but every instinct told him not to leave her. Looking around, he noticed that people were starting to record the scene on their phones. He didn't care about his public image at that moment. He only cared about this child's trembling voice. "Where is your mommy, Leela?" he asked. The little girl's eyes welled up again. "She went to sleep in the park last night and didn't wake up. I tried to wake her, but she's not moving. I got scared and ran away." Richard's heart shattered. He realized this girl might be alone in the world. Without thinking, he scooped her up into his arms. "It's okay, Leela. I'm not your daddy, but I'll help you. I promise." Richard took her to the nearest cafe to warm up. He ordered hot chocolate for her and called the police to report what had happened. But he couldn't shake the feeling of responsibility. Leela sat across from him, sipping her drink, her eyes never leaving his face. "You look just like my daddy in Mommy's picture," she said quietly. Richard smiled weakly. "Where is your picture?" She reached into her teddy bear, where a small folded photo was hidden. When Richard opened it, he felt his heart stop for a moment. The man in the photo wasn't him, but the resemblance was striking. Same dark hair, same square jawline, even the same kind of suit he wore. "Mommy said Daddy was coming back when he found us," Leela whispered. Richard didn't know what to say. He couldn't imagine the pain this girl had endured, believing that her father would come back, only to end up alone. The police eventually arrived and took Leela into their care, but Richard couldn't leave her. He offered to go with them and explain what had happened. Something deep in his soul told him that his life had just changed forever. That night, Richard couldn't sleep in. I-ed her in. I-invite her into SOMETA. He sat in his penthouse apartment staring at the city lights, but all he could see was Leela's tear-streaked face. He couldn't bear the thought of her being shuffled into the foster care system, lost and scared. The next morning, he called the social worker who had taken Leela. "I want to help her," he said firmly. "I don't know if I can adopt her, but I want to be there for her." The social worker was cautious but grateful. "She needs someone who cares," she said. Richard began visiting Leela every day. At first she was shy and quiet, but slowly she began to smile again. She would run into his arms, calling him Daddy. And though he tried to correct her at first, he soon gave up. It didn't matter, he had started to feel like her father. Weeks turned into months. Richard hired private investigators to find Leela's real father, but no one ever came forward. He learned that her mother had died from hypothermia in the park that night, leaving Leela truly alone. The day Richard signed the adoption papers, Leela sat on his lap, her tiny fingers gripping his. "Does this mean you're my daddy now?" she asked, her eyes wide with hope. Richard felt tears fill his eyes. "Yes, sweetheart, I'm your daddy now, forever." For the first time in years, Richard felt complete. The emptiness he had carried for so long was gone. Leela filled his life with laughter, love, and a sense of purpose that no amount of money could buy. Years later, Richard would often tell the story of how a little girl ran to him in the street and called him Daddy. He would say that in that moment, his life changed forever, because sometimes the family you're meant to have finds you when you least expect it. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe for more heartwarming stories.